This is the Bedard Patriots podcast with Nick Cattles.
Picks app today. Use code CLNS and get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code CLNS on Prize Picks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. Also, take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. We will eventually get to the Arizona Cardinals game, but it's now Wednesday as we record this. And we both feel, Greg and I both feel like not many people want to dig too deep into that game that we saw on Sunday. The bigger news, of course, this week and what people are talking about is Jerod Mayo, his future, Mike Vrabel. So we're going to start there. Greg, let me actually begin with Dietrich Wise, who met with the media earlier today. And I'm just going to give you a 20-second rant. Wise protected Mayo like he should, as any player should in the locker room, asked about Mayo's future. But he brought up Dan Campbell. And I got to tell you, if I took a shot every time Dan Campbell's name was brought up to justify a second Mayo season, I would have died weeks ago, Greg. I would be a dead man buried in the ground. Everybody keeps going to Dan Campbell. I'll say it one more time and then get your thoughts. Yes, Jerod Mayo could be the next Dan Campbell. He could be the next Bill Belichick, who started off terribly here. He could be the next this coach or that. He could also become the next head coach that was never ready for the job, never good for the job, and ends up failing at the job. I'm so sick and tired. Again, I leave the door open for Mayo to eventually somehow, some way become good. But I'm so damn sick and tired of Dan Campbell's name being brought up every 10 seconds in New England.
I completely agree with you. Seems like it's kind of the party line because we're hearing this, not only from players, we've heard it from Mayo. I think we've heard it from some reporting, whether it's Josina Anderson or others. Like they're always bringing up Dan Campbell, and that's fine. And Jerod may be that, but before you can talk about being Dan Campbell, well, let's start here. Dan Campbell was a guy who was, I want to say, 6 years as a tight ends coach with the Dolphins. Okay. He got to be the interim head coach. I think it was after Sperano got fired. Didn't go well, but he got a taste of it. He got experience in the head job. Then he went to the New Orleans Saints and was the assistant head coach and tight ends coach under Sean Payton.
Yep.
He did that for, I think, 5 years. Okay. So we're talking double the experience that Jerod Mayo had before he got this job. I mean, Campbell was an assistant, let's call it, 10, 11 years, something like that. He had also been an NFL head coach, had sat in that job, went through it, got to see what he did right, got to see what he did wrong. I'm going to be better the next time I get that opportunity. So that's number one. Number two, Dan Campbell, as we've pointed out many times, at the end of his first season with the Lions, and that team was crap bag. I mean, that was a bad football team, untalented. I think it was only a few years prior when they went 0-16 when Rod Marinelli was there. They were terrible. They went 3-3 down the stretch. They showed something down the stretch. As soon as Jerod Mayo accomplishes that, which is why we talked about the final 4 games. I mean, we would have talked about more, but they were losing games. But okay, now you get the bye week. You come back for the final 4 games. You got some tough matchups. All right, go show that you're making progress. And the problem is there is no progress. So in terms of experience and also the actuality of his first year installing his quote unquote program, Jerod Mayo doesn't come close to adding to measuring up to Dan Campbell. So quite frankly, people should shut up and stop comparing Jerod Mayo to Dan Campbell because that's just another fail for Jerod Mayo. And just overall, I just want to say, and I said this on Felger and Maz, as far as Jerod Mayo and his future, whether he should be retained or not. I don't think it was a very high bar this season for Jerod Mayo. I don't think anybody was really, I think I predicted 6 wins. I don't know where you were on that. I don't think it was much more than that. It was probably
No, I was at 5.
Okay, you were at 5. Which would have been, both of them would have been some improvement from last year. And I'm not even talking, wins and losses. I don't really care about that. But really what you wanted to see was at some point in the second half of the season, you wanted to see him get some traction, the team start going in the right direction. Okay, that hasn't happened. And then you fall back to, all right, there are 3 areas that were really in Jerod Mayo's wheelhouse when he came into this whole thing. Number 1 was defense. Team captain, Little Bill, one of the smartest football players I've ever been around. Helped run the defense the previous 5 years for the Patriots. That hasn't happened. The defense, it would have been fine if they just took a step back from 9th and DVOA to 15, 16, somewhere in the teens. Because of the injuries and all that, we would have been like, okay, I understand. To go to, I think they're 30th now, 31st, whatever. Just an epic fail. You figured, with his experience in media, at Optum, leading a room, which we've heard he's good at, that he would probably excel at the media part of the job, which is somewhat important, especially when you're establishing something and following Bill Belichick, which in terms of podium performance is not that difficult to do. He keeps stepping in it, including on Sunday, which was probably his worst moment of the season. You said it, I didn't. And the other thing was team culture. We heard about him changing the culture here. It was going to be better for the team. It was going to be better for the players. It kind of went through a lull there, but now we got Kayshon Boutte talking after the game, calling out the offensive coordinator, Drake May, a little bit. Everyone's following the lead of the head coach who threw his offensive coordinator under the bus. So, look, like I said, it wasn't a high bar for Jerod Mayo to be where everybody would back off and say, like, all right, I can see where this is going. At this point in the season, where they are, it's difficult to make that argument that you could say, okay, I see this is going someplace and it's going someplace positive.
Whenever somebody brings up Dan Campbell's name, I got a new game that I'm going to play. I'm just going to yell, Nathaniel Hackett, for no reason.
Yeah.
Because Nathaniel Hackett was an offensive coordinator for 9 years in the NFL, got a chance to run the Denver program, and was fired after 15 games as the Denver head coach because he was so bad. And by the way, he had 4 wins with Denver. They were 4-11 when he was fired. So I think that's going to be my fun little retort to whoever just says, oh, well, Dan Campbell. Okay, great. Yes, he could be Dan Campbell. He also could be Nathaniel Hackett and be a complete failure at the job. The culture thing, I find.
He could also be Hugh Jackson. There's a whole list of them. He could also be Hugh Jackson.
There's literally hundreds of coaches that have failed. I'm tired of that example being thrown out there every time in my face. The culture stuff is interesting going off of what you just said, because, all of a sudden Jerod in the last month or so, and I think this will lead into my next question with what Dietrich Wise said at the podium today. Both Mayo and Wolf hammered culture, right? We're not going to be as hard ass. It's about culture. Yep. It's about connecting. It's about building something. It's about putting the North Star in the facility or whatever they did. Robin Glazer was busy finding artists to paint stuff, whatever was going on. We're going to change the culture. And then all of a sudden, about a month ago, I think, maybe it was earlier, maybe it was a week or two later, but all of a sudden, Jerod changed. All of a sudden, Jerod started to tell us that reset the culture in year one. I never thought you could reset a culture in year one. That's part of this. It's like, you're going to sit there and you're going to tell us what you're going to do and how you're going to improve things. And then we see no evidence of it. And not only do we see no evidence of it, but then you start to back away from your own claims. Like that is so ridiculous. You can't sell us on culture for the first 6 months of your job as the head coach, and then all of a sudden in the middle of a miserable season go, oh, well, I reset the culture in year one. Who resets a culture in year one? I didn't think that was then you shouldn't have sold it in the first place, Jerod. You shouldn't have sold that idea if it was impossible to do, which leads me to
who did? Dan Campbell. But anyways.
Yeah, Dan Campbell. Leads me to Wise, another comment he said. He said that Jerod's leadership is one of the best that he has seen. I want to ask you, and maybe you haven't heard anything, but have you heard anything about Jerod's leadership in the building, leading the guys? Has anything come out to you? Have you talked to any sources? Has anybody come up to you on the side and said, you know what? Yeah, we're miserable right now on the field, but he has been a good leader of men in that locker room. Have you heard anything regarding the leadership quotient?
I have not. And all I can do is what I see with the product, on the field. And you look for things like, accountability and improvement and error corrections and things like that. And that hasn't gone on. So that's all I can go off of.
Drake May was at the podium. He said the players are backing Mayo. Again, pretty expected from the starting quarterback, right? But I wanted to ask you, how much could that actually impact the Crafts? If you're Robert, you're Jonathan, you see the product on the field and it's miserable. There's not really any improvement that we can pick out from beginning to this point so far. How much does that weigh in if you're Kraft and you say, yeah, it was rough, but man, the players are backing him. The players believe in him. And if we get rid of him after 1 year, that could really screw up that locker room more than we think.
Well, the latter part, I don't subscribe to. Obviously it would depend who they brought in, but look, everybody in that locker room, well, maybe not the younger guys, but everybody in that locker room knows this is professional football. It is a performance-based business. And if somebody doesn't do their job, they're gone, players and coaches alike. And so if Jerod Mayo is gone, I don't think there's any ramifications. Obviously, it matters, who they replace him with. But I'll just say this: I'm not going to totally discount what the players are saying. Me myself, as a natural born cynic, and my cynicism has been well honed over 25 years in this business. Me personally, I toss it out the window. I mean, what are these guys going to say? I mean, there's 3 games left in the season. Nobody's going to go up there and say, yeah, our coach is terrible, especially a guy like Dietrich Wise, who is, I don't think he ever played with Jerod, but certainly has played for Jerod, when he was an assistant coach. And Drake May is, Drake May. I mean, he doesn't know what he doesn't know at this point in time. But do I think it could impact the Crafts? I'm not gonna toss that out. I'm not gonna ignore that. I mean, it's possible, especially with Robert. We know how sentimental he is, and he's probably looking for any reason to retain Mayo. And but the other thing I did want to say about this is, the truth of the matter is, like, we could see the on-field products and all this stuff. The truth of the matter is we have no idea what's going on inside that building in terms of, who's exactly doing what, like you asked about, Mayo's leadership. We don't know what kind of fires he is or isn't, putting out inside the locker room or inside the building. So, these guys are entitled to their opinions. Me personally, they don't matter much to me, but I'm not going to discount that it couldn't influence ownership in some way.
Couple comments from wide receivers that I want to mention here happening right now on the scene before we get to Mayo and more Mayo and Vrabel. First, let's start with Kayshon Boutte. I think the Patriots lead the league in apologies. Boutte said that he later apologized to Alex Van Pelt for what he said in the locker room post Cardinals game when he was telling Alex Van Pelt that they should run different offense against man coverage. But he said, quote, "I'm sorry for the way the message came across. I went about it the wrong way." He also said, "Nobody likes losing, obviously, so I think it was just frustration lingering from the game. I thought I was wrong for what I said. It wasn't the right way to handle it." So at least he has apologized publicly and apologized to Van Pelt. But what did you make of Booty's post-game comments?
I thought they were ridiculous. And, it's just, I mean, just throwing a little log on the fire for the season that's been a raging inferno. I mean, why that Kayshon Boutte feels empowered to give his opinion on anything is utterly ridiculous. And to me, it's symbolic of the Mayo era at this point. This is not the first time he's done it. And again, we're talking about, coaches making people accountable, correcting errors. They can't even correct some, fifth string wide receiver mouthing off after the game. I mean, and we're expecting them to solve great football issues on the field. It's just, to me, it's ridiculous.
The Kayshon Boutte, the same Kayshon Boutte who has 27 catches for 349 yards and a touchdown this year. I wanted Boutte's opinion in the postgame. I wanted his opinion about dropping the football, leading to an interception. That's the only opinion I wanted from Kayshon Boutte. Another wide receiver note here, and a serious one. Javon Baker popped up with a concussion on the injury report last week. Obviously did not play. People were wondering what the hell was going on because this was during a bye week, and Mayo would not say anything. Well, Baker did talk to the media today. He said he suffered his concussion last week in a bad car accident and that he feels blessed to have only walked out of it with a concussion. He's now feeling good. So I don't really need an opinion from Greg on that. I just wanted to share with the people what's going on with Javon Baker. Apparently got into a car accident, and that's what caused the concussion. Says that he feels better now. We'll see if it matters because the guy has not been able to get on the field much as a wide receiver this season. All right, before we get to more Mayo, and I want to get to Mike Vrabel, Greg, tell the fine people about Prize Picks.
Prize Picks is the best way to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. Just pick more or less on at least two players for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your cash. Run your game all season long on Prize Picks, America's #1 daily fantasy sports app. I love sitting down for a game, making my selections. I'm going to do that on Christmas with the Netflix games. I got to be invested. I know a lot of other people do it differently, but I like to pick one game, pick guys on both sides, and have it, and it's a blast. Make your holidays bigger and brighter with Prize Picks, the best place to get real money action while watching your favorite sports. You can now win up to 1,000 times your money on Prize Picks. Join now because this holiday season, Prize Picks is giving away 2 free picks in December, and they're giving away $30+ million in rewards during Picksmas. Think James Cook will get more than 60 yards next week or this week against the Patriots? Probably. Joe Burrow passed more than 1.5 touchdowns? Probably. Cook up your hot takes like Nick Cattles with your friends and win real money this football season when you and your crew run your games on Prize Pick. Download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, that's code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game.
Steaming, sweltering takes.
Steaming hot takes.
Hitting my microphone.
And should we tell the people that they're coming to over the airwaves near them?
That's right. Yes, New Year's Day. What better way to get over your hangover than to hang out with Greg and I? We'll be on 98.5 together from 11 to 2. Not on TV because both of us are ugly. So we're going to go 11 to 2, no 10 to 2. We don't look like Phil Perry, so we've been knocked off television. So
I'm going topless.
Greg's going to go topless. It's going to be
I've been threatening this. Yeah.
Via text. There have been threats sent. All right, let's get back to Mayo. So he's at the podium today, Greg. He deflected questions about the Crafts guaranteeing him a second season.
Giardi was all over him.
Yeah, I know you've said that it's most likely he comes back, but have you heard anything about a guarantee from the Crafts?
No. Certainly they collectively, and I'm not sure exactly which one, have been telling, some people that, and certainly they're getting that, they have gotten that word out through their people in the media. But I have not heard anything about them telling Mayo. I mean, they've been supportive of him, and I don't think they've ever told him anything that puts him in the crosshairs or what have you.
Right.
But I think the Crafts are really good at, and I respect them greatly for this. They always give it the full 17 games. I mean, well, not in the case of Belichick's final season. But the writing was kind of on the wall at that point. But they do a good job of doing the whole 17 games. Then they'll have a postseason meeting where they ask a bunch of questions, and depending on how those questions get answered, they'll make their decisions.
Do you think the Cardinals game moved the needle at all for the Crafts?
Well, let me put it this way. If it didn't, they're not doing their job as owners. And somebody needs to tell them that. I mean, because how could you not? You come back from the bye. The team was absolutely abysmal on offense and defense. It was horrible on offense. The defense, it was the same crap that we've been seeing all season. And then, Jerod Mayo says what he says. You said it. I didn't. It was a completely unprofessional comment from a head coach after a game. And it wasn't the first time this kind of thing has gone on this season. Again, we've been talking about just show me improvement. Show me that you're learning on the job. Show me that you're, what everybody loves to say, grow into the job. Show me you're growing into the job. And in no phase of a head coach's job has Jerod Mayo, to me, illustrated that he is growing into this job now that we have 3 games left in the season. And I reported what I reported, that it wasn't that Jerod wasn't 100% back. I think I put it at 90% at the time, going into the final 4 games. I think that knocked a leg out on his case for coming back for next season. And I think the Crafts are paying attention and have been paying attention all year.
What moves the needle more if you're Robert Kraft? If you're making this decision, is it the game on Sunday against the Cardinals, or was it the post game?
That's a great question.
Thank you. I tried.
I mean, I can only, I don't know what Robert thinks. I mean, I'd like to see Jonathan Kraft's notes on the game. We might be able to get a glimpse at that. But I could just tell you, for me, it was the on-field product. I mean, bye week, extra practice, padded practice, get some rest. Here we go. Cardinals stink, by the way. And they fall down 23-3. To me, that's it. That shows me a team that's not responding to the head coach. And then the unprofessional, embarrassing post-game performance was the cherry on top.
And it's an if, we know the schedule. If the next 3 weeks look like that, do you think this thing gets blown up?
I still think it's more even if, all right, let's just say it's like Sunday against the Cardinals. Not really competitive on either side of the ball for large stretches of a game. The head coach does not show well, either in game management or in the post game. I would still say it's more probable than not that Mayo returns for a second season, but it's going to be pretty close.
All right. We got to get to Mike Vrabel. But before we do, we got to get to game time with Greg.
The NFL season's winding down. You got to get out there to experience the game. You got to be there in person. The TV's nice, and I know you got the TV, and you got a cheaper beer in your hand and everything. But there's nothing like being in the stadium. Game Time can help get you there. Game Time Picks filters out all the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Love the all-in pricing. Toggling this feature shows the total up front with no surprise fees at checkout. You can get panoramic views from your seat in the app before you buy. That's a must for me. I need to know what I'm looking at. I was just looking on the Game Time app, the Chargers game, the next home game for the Patriots. I know last time I said you could sit in the lower bowl for 163. Guess what? I just saw it. You could sit in the lower bowl for 113. Wow. All in. I also used it to get concert tickets for me and the wife. She's still talking about the concert. She keeps showing me videos from it. She loves that stuff. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CLNS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time.
Mike Vrabel. Let's get to him. Let's talk about Mike. So Tom E. Curran, was on Early Edition last night, Greg. And he mentioned, which I tweeted at Nick C Radio, if you want to follow me, Vrabel is interested in coaching the Patriots. Okay. I don't talk to you about these things until we go into this podcast. Have you heard anything similar to what Tommy Curran has heard about Mike Vrabel?
I have. And yes, he would have an interest in coaching the New England Patriots. And I think there's a pretty good chance that Josh McDaniels would come with him. That's my understanding. That's what I'm hearing.
I'm tweeting this before the podcast comes out. Be mad at me, CLNS. I'm going to tweet this information from Greg Bedard. All right. The $1 million question, Greg. If you are Robert Kraft and you know the back channeling that you could have Mike Vrabel and Josh McDaniels, would you pull that trigger?
1,000%. Look, and it's nothing against Jerod. I think that I don't disagree with the Crafts in terms of I think Jerod Mayo is a talented coach, leader. I think given time, I think at some point he will be an excellent NFL head coach. He's just not ready for this. And, to me, the calculus that you have to do with the Crafts is, they're smart business people. You got to put a percentage on it. Given what the Patriots have at this point with Drake May, a ton of cap space, a top 3 pick, a new football facility being built. What are the percentages that the Patriots, and it's not just Jerod, we're talking about Elliott Wolf, somebody who I have a lot of respect for, who I do think was qualified for his job, just didn't execute it great this year, to say the least. You have to, number one, you can't worry about cost, anything like that. The simple question is, put a percentage on it. You've seen Jerod Mayo from soup to nuts, from his player to now. You know what's going on behind the scenes with this team. What's the percentage that Jerod Mayo can, in time, take this team to a Super Bowl, if not win a championship? What are the chances that Mike Vrabel with Josh McDaniels can do the same thing? To me, it's clear. And you have to put personal feelings aside. You have to do what's best. If you really, truly care, and how many times have we heard Robert Kraft talk about this? How he's a fan first and all this stuff. And, it's the next to his family, it's the most important thing in his life. And the football team is like a family to him. Unless you're just full of crap, you have to do what's best in the interest of the franchise. And I don't know if there's anybody out there who could say that Jerod Mayo gives this team a better chance of winning a Super Bowl than Mike Vrabel and Josh McDaniels and, whoever else. Maybe it's Brian Daboll as his offensive coordinator. Don't go too strong on the McDaniels stuff. I mean, that's it's in the ether. It's being talked about in NFL circles, but I don't know that for a fact. But I don't know how you feel about it, Nick, but to me, I don't think there's any decision to be made. If you have an opportunity to do that, you passed on them. And here's the other thing. I know there's a lot out there about Vrabel and the Bears and McDaniels and Vrabel, going to the Bears. All right. Okay, maybe, I don't know. Does he really love that setup with the team president and the GM? They're not going anywhere. You got Caleb Williams, blah, blah, blah. What if they end up with the Jets and you're facing them twice a year and they have a complete rebuild that they're doing? I think all of that has to come into consideration. But to me, I don't know how anybody can make the argument that Jerod Mayo and everything that's around him right now, and even fixing it, bringing in different pieces around him or whatever, gives the Patriots a better shot at getting back to a Super Bowl contender status than Mike Vrabel and a Josh McDaniels.
Mike Vrabel was the one guy that I would have hired before Jerod Mayo last year. I said it at the time in real time, and there's nothing that's happened over the last 9 to 10 months that would move me away from that idea. I would still take Vrabel over Mayo. Couple follow-up questions. The Jets, they have interviewed Thomas Dimitroff and John Robinson for the GM job. Of course, Robinson worked with Vrabel. I don't know how that relationship is. Reportedly, Vrabel was not happy when Robinson decided to trade A.J. Brown. So I don't know what that means. But as far as here, Greg, let's just hypothetically go down that road. Vrabel is hired as the head coach, whoever his OC is, whether it's McDaniels or it's Daboll or Tommy Reese has been thrown out there. Boy, Tommy Reese's agents have been working pretty hard too. Shout out to them.
Overtime.
But what does that mean for Elliott Wolf? Does Vrabel come in and say, I'll work with Wolf? Or does Vrabel come in and go, this whole thing? Because now you're putting the power in Vrabel's hands. And that's a question, isn't it?
Yeah. Yes. It's an interesting question. I'll say, I think that, and this is where I was when, they were letting go of Bill. They have to make a decision on, do you want a strong head coach, say like Kyle Shanahan model, or do you want a strong GM? And it's one way or the other. I don't know how anybody can make the argument that Elliott Wolf should be a strong GM type, because you need alignment in the
Yes.
building.
Yes.
That's the bottom line. You have to. You can't this piecemeal stuff like, all right, we're firing the coach, but Elliott Wolf is going to stay. We're going to bring in Mike Vrabel. I mean, this is what the Jets do. I mean, it's just terrible. They also one thing I also wanted to mention, Nick, and I forgot to put it in a rundown. I don't know if you heard this, but I was listening to Curran, and I think he was on Early Edition or whatever, and he floated out. He thought it would be a good idea to have a football czar, Bill Parcells in Miami.
And Tom mentioned Pioli as a possibility. I will say though, Tom mentioned Pioli when Trenny asked him for a name. So he had just interviewed Pioli, and he admitted that Pioli was top of mind because he just interviewed him for his podcast. And I think it was, who's the lawyer? Is it Mike McCann or whatever his name is?
Yeah, Mike McCann. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the person who initially brought up the idea to Tom. And I think Tom's kind of working that idea on live TV. So I don't know if
he was workshopping it. Yeah.
I don't know if 3 days from now Tom will be behind that, but just the general idea of somebody above Wolf like Pioli to vet everybody in the organization.
Yeah, and I think, me personally, I think that's a terrible idea. I mean, all the examples that I can think of, Bill Parcells in Miami, you get a bump, okay, but at some point in time, it doesn't work. Bill Parcells in Miami, with Tony Sperano and what have you. Tom Coughlin in Jacksonville worked for a time. It devolved. Mike Holmgren in Cleveland didn't work. About the only one that I can think of, and I'm not exactly sure of the timeline on when people were hired and things like that, would be Chris Spielman in Detroit with Campbell and Brad Holmes. I'm not exactly sure who hired who or whatnot, but you can make the argument that that has worked a little bit. I mean, I think that, I don't know if Dan Morgan is considered that in Carolina or he's just the general manager, but whatever. I do not want to do that. I think, when it comes down to it, say the Patriots do move on for Jerod Mayo. First of all, they're going to have to go through all the interviews anyways. But part of those interviews, especially if, and I think it would be great for the Patriots, a Vrabel McDaniels tandem. These guys have been around it. They've been head coaches before. They know what works, what doesn't work. They've been in this building. You get their thoughts on it. Let them, what do they think? And you sort of go from there.
The Chicago stuff, by the way, with Vrabel, my theory is that Vrabel saw what happened on Sunday with the Patriots. And I just don't think it's a coincidence, because I don't think Chicago would be leaking that. I don't think it's a coincidence that right on the heels of what happened on Sunday, a report comes out and says, hey, Vrabel and McDaniels might be near the top of the list. I'm not doubting Burt Breer's information. I think somebody told Burt that. But I think the reason they told Burt that was to put the Kraft's feet to the fire. Because if you want to pull at the heartstrings, you talk about the sentimentality of Robert Kraft all the time, Greg. If you want to pull at those heartstrings, don't forget who the first Mayo was. It was Josh McDaniels, baby. Don't forget about, we got to pull him from Indianapolis. We'll give him more money, and we're not going to necessarily promise him the job when Bill walks, but we're going to let him know that he could have the job when Bill walks. And, of course, McDaniels ended up in Vegas. But McDaniels was the first Mayo. He was the guy that the Krafts were looking at as the next guy behind Belichick. Don't forget that. And so you've got Vrabel, who has ties here and is close to Kraft. We know the Hall of Fame stuff last year. You've got McDaniels, who's very close to Kraft. McDaniels lives in the area, and it makes a lot of sense for him to stay here in New England and work with somebody that he knows very well in Vrabel, working for an owner that he trusts and knows that loves him. So my theory is that was absolutely agent speak, or Vrabel himself saying, yeah, you know what? Chicago loves me.
Yeah, I mean, that could certainly be the case. It was very interesting timing. The other thing about Vrabel in Chicago, I don't know who it was, but I heard somebody mention that Vrabel has a relationship with Ryan Poles, the GM.
Yeah, I saw that too.
But I don't know where that would have happened. Like, Poles was a player at Boston College. He's from New York. He graduated Boston College in 2007. He was an undrafted free agent of the Bears in 2008. He was maybe they crossed paths as a BC grad assistant in 2008. That'd be weird. But he's basically a Scott Pioli disciple. So I don't know if there's any carryover there, but he's only been with the Chiefs before he went to the Bears. I don't know where he would have gotten this relationship with Mike Vrabel.
Brings me to timing. How much does timing make this difficult to pull off, Greg? Because Vrabel's out there. Obviously, he's working for Cleveland in this consultant job or whatever the hell the title is. But he's out there. McDaniels is out there. They obviously want back in the game. And you've got Kraft, who, as you said, likes to go through the full 17-game schedule, then kind of decompress and take his time. If they're thinking about Vrabel, how much urgency do they have to show here, Greg?
I mean, but I don't think the Krafts, I don't think it's going to go past a week past the end of the season. So I don't think that's, if they move on from Mayo, I don't think the timing is going to be that big a deal, because all these teams have to go through all these these interviews and, different rounds, and are people in the playoffs and all this stuff. And look, if you're the Bears, unless you have some sort of assurances from Vrabel privately, which I would doubt, like, they're going to have to go through the process, including interviewing Ben Johnson, who's going to be, busy during the playoffs with the Lions probably for a while. So I'm not too worried about that.
Yeah, I think Chicago goes offense, whether it's Johnson or it's Kingsbury. I think that's what they do. All right, before we get to the awful Arizona game for a few minutes, Greg's got something to talk about for you.
You know, when it comes time to keeping my home comfortable this winter, there's nothing more important than having a reliable team to handle things like heating, cooling, and plumbing. That's why I'm so glad I worked with Notturno Home Services. These guys are local, they are family owned and family focused, and have been servicing the greater Boston area for 15 years. I've told you about how they go above and beyond the call of duty. I wanted to tell you about how the top-notch professionalism that I got from Notturno. My comfort advisor, Nick, was awesome to deal with. He answered all my ridiculous questions.
It wasn't me. It wasn't me.
It wasn't you. No, definitely not. Hey, I'm a total amateur at this stuff. I have dumb questions, and Nick was good with me. Scheduling was a breeze. Didn't have to wait for anyone to get back to me on installation day. They showed up on time before 8, were gone by 5. And even though it was a muddy mess outside, you couldn't tell when they were gone because they put tarps down. Oh, and all the work they did was perfect. This is a little nerdy, but I actually, Nick, like to watch and listen to my new boiler work now. Yeah, I'm kind of a nerd like that. Notturno isn't just about heating either. They're my go-to for plumbing, cooling, even water and air quality solutions. They've got the expertise to handle whatever your home needs. Here's the best part. You can get 10% off your next service with Notturno. That could save you up to $1,000 on your next project. Just visit notturnohome.com/Bedard for all details and conditions. That's Notturno home.com/Bedard. Take advantage now before the end of the year. These deals won't last forever. Trust me, having a team like Notturno Home Services in your corner makes all the difference. Whether you need a quick repair or a major installation, they'll get the job done right. Check them out today. I trust Notturno. You should too.
All right, let's quickly go through this. I got lunch to eat, and I don't want to deal with it too much. All right, Van Pelt versus Arizona. What the hell happened?
It was a complete debacle. Look, the point I want to make, and I wrote this for BSJ today, and I talked a little bit about it on Felger and Mass, and I see the tweets and all this stuff, and I hear the post-game commentary, and everybody's like, Fedarian Lowe sucks, Ben Brown sucks, their offensive line blows. What do you expect? They can't do anything. They can't block anybody. And I'm not saying that's not true, but, and we've talked about this all year, and we are now how many games? 14 games into this. Football is a game. It's chess on grass. Okay. And in every matchup in football, I don't care whether you're Pop Warner, high school, college, pros, one team is going to have an advantage on the other team. Sometimes it's going to be great, like Buffalo on Sunday, and we don't expect much. But in a game like against the Arizona Cardinals, it's incumbent upon the coaches, and this was reinforced. I heard Tom Curran had a great podcast with Scott Pioli, and Scott Pioli kept talking about how, there were times when they didn't have a lot of talent, but, it's about talent development, and it's about the coaches taking what these players can do and doing what you can with it to try to win a game. He talked about, and we've heard this before, about how, whether it was Bill Belichick or Bill Parcells, don't tell me what a player can't do. Tell me what a player can do. And, and that goes to Alex Van Pelt going into this game. It's incumbent upon him in every single matchup to determine, he's seen these guys all week in practice. They had extra practice. They had a padded practice. He needs to understand what the guys that he has at his disposal, what they can do and what they can't do. Okay. And stay away from the things they can't do or might struggle with. Stay in your lane with things that they can do. And to me, I thought the game plan was completely flawed. And it's falling into a trap. Like, it's like, and it's like this team in general, but, the Rams game, they do pretty good. Then they're like, oh, not too much pressure. We did a lot of good stuff. Or we're going to ease back on the stuff that we were doing. Then it's a disaster. Then they come out against the Colts. Very simple defense, not that overpowering. Hey, worked really well. Drake May's best game of the season. All right, let's not continue that. Let's get a little bit more aggressive in what we want to do. And he did that again in this game. To me, watching the first half film, was I don't like to get into hyperbole, but as far as I can remember, it was the worst film in the first half this year, coming off of a bye. It looked like they hadn't practiced anything. And the two main issues in this were, number one, Alex Van Pelt didn't anticipate the Cardinals playing more man-to-man. We talked about going into the matchup, second highest zone coverage rate in the league. We did our pod. I talked to an assistant coach after that where they were like, go watch this game and go watch that game. Because when Jonathan Gannon, who's the defensive guy, the head coach, defensive guru over there, when he's not afraid of weapons, they play a lot more man and they're a freaking pain in the ass. Alex Van Pelt did not anticipate that, and he was not ready for that. And the Cardinals basically shut them down. A big issue was the Cardinals front. This isn't like the Colts front where it's four guys down, maybe the occasional blitz from Gus Bradley, but you're really not getting, it's really four guys. You know where they're lining up. It's not that hard to block. The Cardinals do a bunch of different fronts. You got overhanging linebackers. You got edge guys. Sometimes they're 5 yards outside the tackle. Sometimes they're head up on the tackle. There's a different aiming point all the time. So they weren't ready for that. Because what I saw on film was these guys, Vidarian Lowe, Ben Brown, like a lot of times they didn't know who to block. They're like, all right, well, this guy's not where I anticipated. This isn't what we practiced against. Now where do I go? And there were errors like that. And then the other thing was, to compound it even more, Alex Van Pelt coming out of a bye. They hadn't played a game in a week, not up to speed, game speed. He ran a ton of wide zone, and he ran a ton of pulling, power plays with two guys pulling. Both of those blocking schemes taken an enormous amount of timing and precision, and they were not ready for it. They had not practiced hard enough. And I didn't see them run duo, which is the simplest blocking scheme and what they've been able to do, where, you have two guys double team the guy in front of them and then go up to the linebackers. They didn't do any of that. And to me, all of that compounded all the talent level. It was a complete disaster. And to me, I mean, for example, just to use, one play as an example, everybody remembers, I'm just looking for it because okay. So everybody remembers the big holding penalty on the first drive. Ramondre Stevenson, I think it was Antonio Gibson, because it ended up being like a 25-yard penalty. They should have 1st and 10 at the Arizona 18. Instead, it's I think it's 2nd and 20 or what have you. That was shotgun, empty. It put a lot of stress on Layden Robinson, who's a young guy. He's an undersized guy in that matchup with the Cardinals front, and you're inviting that kind of mistake, and that happened over and over and over again on the film. So to me, I thought it was an epic coaching failure as far as Alex Van Pelt in this game, and he exacerbated all the issues with this offense by getting way over his skis in terms of his approach to this game.
Is this defense actually getting worse?
Yes, without question. I mean, when you get 2 walk-in touchdowns, by the Cardinals, Nick, and I know you've heard me say this before, there was no one in those gaps. Like, they're on the goal line. There's no one in the second level. There was, Sion Taki on the first one is late getting in there. The second one, Kyle Duggar, isn't lined up in the right place, never gets there in time. It's bad. I mean, thank God for Christian Gonzalez in this game, or else it would have been like 50-3. But also, let me also add that Kyler Murray had a bunch of open guys that he did not see, especially on the balls he forced to Marvin Harrison against Gonzalez, and also on his little beep runs for like 4 yards. There were guys open. And it's probably because he's like 5'5", he can't see them. But this game should have been a lot worse than it was.
All right, holiday Boston Sports Journal special going on right now. $10 off an annual subscription to BSJ with promo code HOLIDAYS through 12/31. That's December 31st. Of course, you can always check them out at BSJ. Also, download the Prize Picks app today. Use code CLNS. Get $50 instantly when you play $5. And our friends at Game Time, download that app as well. Use the code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Greg, you just gave us a lot about the offense, some about the defense, but your overall likes and dislikes from that game on Sunday.
So let's go through it. Offense, Drake May, actually my highest graded game for him over the Colts game. I mean, he didn't have a lot. Yeah, I mean, he made 3 special plays in the game. The throw to Bourne, the shovel touchdown, and then him calmly seeing the all-out blitz and just running around the corner and in. You know what I love, Nick, about that is that Drake May got to the end zone and just like flipped the ball to the ref and like ran off the field. I love that. And I don't know if you felt this way, but I did. I kind of felt like he was frustrated in that moment, just being like, you know how many times I could have done this in this game earlier?
Yeah.
If we decided to do that, how hard was that? You're not exposing me to injury. So let alone, what I said about Van Pelt, let alone his constant decisions not to use Drake May's full athletic ability. I mean, I can't wait. I can't wait to watch Josh Allen run buck wild on the Patriots while Drake May's playing like here. Handoff. I'm gonna do thank God. Can you imagine if Brian Daboll got Josh Allen that rookie year and said, you know what, we're not running Josh Allen. We're not going to do that. No, it didn't happen because it would never happen because Brian Daboll's not an idiot. But back to Antonio Gibson was freaking phenomenal in this game. Only 16 plays. And I have him for 6+ plays. That's a ridiculous percentage. He was awesome. He had a great blitz pickup. He had a great block on Marcus Jones's little flip pass. By the way, can we get more than one of those plays a game? Is it too taxing for Alex Van Pelt and the coaching staff to, I don't know, maybe have 5, 6, 10, 15 of those, considering the talent that they have on this team? Is that too much to ask? Stevenson was good rebound game for him. I'm not gonna. Hooper was the best that I had out of the tight ends. He had a really nice run block early on in the game. Michael Wenu, best game of the season, clean sheet. It's been a long time since I've said somebody's had a clean sheet on this offensive line, probably back to when David Andrews was still playing. Thought DeMontre Jacobs was pretty good. Defensively, let's see.
Christian Gonzalez.
Nobody on edge. Interior defensive line, no. Linebackers. Christian Ellis actually played a pretty good game for the first time all year. I had him with 3+ plays. He made a couple dynamite tackles. Got Kyler Murray in the open field. Had a nice pass tackle at the goal line to prevent a touchdown. Christian Gonzalez, phenomenal. And that's it. So the downs. Jalen Polk is completely clueless out there. It looks like he's running a different offense. His timing is just completely off. He doesn't run his routes the right way. I don't know what's going on with him. Kayshon Boutte for dropping that interception. That has to be caught. It was much easier catch than Hunter Henry's on the goal line the week before. Vidarian Lowe. He was terrible in this game. 5 total quarterback pressures, 4.5 stuffed runs. Again, I will say that Alex Van Pelt was complicit in this. Ben Brown, Alex Van Pelt not as complicit because Ben Brown snapped two balls off his ass. So that's not really the fault of the offensive coordinator. Defensively, Jelani Tavai, not good. Sion Taki, even worse. Kyle Duggar was horrendous. And what did I say in my column? So about Duggar, I was looking back on my season grades for him. And by the way, Duggar and Jabril Peppers both combined for that 53-yard run that Jerod Mayo wanted to wipe from the record because the defense wasn't that bad. Other than that, Duggar missed 2 tackles for a total of 56 yards. He allowed 3 easy third down catches. Like I said, he wasn't in the right gap on one of the TD plunges. I look back on my grading. Kyle Duggar is a minus 24 in the last 4 games for me. And I think on the season, he's like a minus 28. So it's all been in the last 4 games. I'm sure he's playing through injury. I have no idea that I have no doubt that he's a tough guy, but man, he has not been good in the last 4 games.
All right, there you have it. Some likes and dislikes, and just get ready because the Bills are coming up. This should be exciting.
Woo!
On Sunday. Can't wait for
Sunday night. Again, I can't. I'm so happy that I have to wait until 4:25 to watch this game and then report till midnight and 1 a.m. again.
We'll talk to you later in the week. Goodbye.